When I first met Andy Dufresne, he was the mayor of the silo. I'm, I'm John Stark, MyMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and this is the 30th anniversary of one of the best movies ever made and ever will be made, The Shawshank Redemption. Yeah, Tim Robbins is currently on Silo, so I've been watching Silo. I just decided to make the gag. No, that wasn't the first time I'd ever seen Tim Robbins in anything. Please don't take that away. Please don't let that be the takeaway. Anyway, I own the Shawshank Redemption with audio description, digital copy, Apple Store. You can buy it yourself and watch over and 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 over. And it's a great track. It's a great track. It's a great movie. It's directed by Frank Darabont, based on the story by Stephen King, a little short story that he put together. That I'm sure he was like, this is not going to be what I'm known. It's going to be known. It's going to be what you're known for, man. It is going to be Frank Darabont is going to take this little thing and run with it. And yeah, he'll later, of course, tackle the Green Mile, which is also excellent, which I also would like to review. Um, and as an anniversary, because that's doing his 25th anniversary. So like 5 years later, he does the Green Mile, and this is just a phenomenal achievement in film. And it didn't even do that well in theatrical release, although it was good enough that it did crack the Best Picture race, but it didn't win. See, this is the thing. I also this year I also have done like I've done four of the five nominees from this year because I have already done an anniversary for Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, and Quiz Show, and now I'm doing Shawshank Redemption. So the thing about this year is it was a strong year for film, but even with those nominees, the competition, it always seems to be like, well, people are like, oh, it should have gone to Pulp Fiction. I'm always like, no, it should have gone to Shawshank. I mean, I like Pulp Fiction. It's not even my favorite Tarantino movie. I think that was sort of like Tarantino officially arriving, like Hollywood to recognize him. I mean, technically, Reservoir Dogs is good enough. He should have arrived with what Reservoir Dogs, but he was like being accepted with Pulp Fiction. But no, I mean, he goes on to make better movies than that. So, in my opinion, but Shawshank is just. I like The Green Mile. Shawshank is still Frank Darabont's best film. It's still one of the best films ever, and we found that out as soon as IMDb allowed people to rank things. And I think people found out how much those extra TNT airings really mattered in getting the word out there. Because I think a lot of people saw this later on cable, and just the repeated airings. I know I've seen this movie a bajillion times, but like never in whole. Like if I count all the times that I've seen that I stopped in and caught it in progress or watched it until I fell asleep or something late at night. It felt like Shawshank was always on TV, and even before, like it took me forever. I never owned it on VHS. I finally bought a DVD copy of it just because I was like, why don't I own Shawshank on DVD? But it always felt like it was always on, so it was like it never needed, you never needed that. But yeah, I've seen Shawshank just so many times. It was one of the movies I even got to see like as a kid when we rented it. My mom let me see it, and just a couple times it's like, oh, don't look, she like she used to do that with me with like R-rated movies, like, oh, don't look. So I think I had to look away when guy blows his head off at the end. Some of the other stuff you don't catch in time. Like if you've never seen the movie before, you don't know how violent something's gonna be. Um, but some of the time she could tell when it was building to something. So, uh, yeah, I've always loved Shawshank. It's like in my top 10, I think, of all time. It's a list I want to sort of like finalize. My goal is to see enough movies and fill in enough gaps so that when I'm 50, I can actually drop that. I can actually come up with some sort of like an all-time list and have feel like I have fully formed opinions on it. But right now, I would say Shawshank is a top 10 movie for me. I don't don't think that that's not true. If it is, it's like what 11th or 12th. Like it just barely is outside the top 10. But it would not be. I can't think of too many movies that I love more than this. So, um, watching this again and getting to watch it with audio description, it's it's one of those things where I was trying really hard to pay attention to the audio description because I've seen Shawshank so many times that I could feasibly watch Shawshank without audio description and be fine because of memory. There are some things that I still have because I'm young enough, and I don't know if I'm going to have it forever. I don't know what's going to be taken from me as I age, if I'm really going to appreciate the audio description for films that I've seen a bajillion times in 20 or 30 years when my brain starts deleting those things. But because I was able to see before, this is something that I have sort of, there's like a VHS of Shawshank in my brain. So a lot of the imagery was coming back to me. Of course, that iconic shot of him standing there in the rain at the end. Just yeah, I was just like, oh yeah, there's that shot. That's back. I feel like I've seen that shot a dozen times. I feel they pull that out just in random montages of film. Um, but no, so much of this movie, I remember what Tim Robbins looked like at this age, and Morgan Freeman. It's funny because Morgan Freeman has always looked old. Like here he plays old, like he's already older. And you're like, he still is. Like Morgan Freeman has just always played old. Like just ambiguously. How old is he? I don't know. You know, definitely not young though. You know, he just plays old. He played older in Glory, which came out like 5 years before this, which is also celebrating an anniversary year. So he's sort of like Maggie Smith in that way. Like Maggie Smith at a certain point, before she was really old, just started playing old roles. Wisdom, you know. So, uh, yeah, I would have easily given the Oscar to. This is more of a toss up for me in supporting actor because you look at Jackson and you look at Freeman, and either one of those people should have won, not the person who won this year. I'm sorry, I like Martin Landau and I'm happy he was nominated, but no, 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 the winner should have been Samuel L. Jackson or Morgan Freeman. Like those are the only two options. The all of the other answers are wrong. You could talk about nominating. Like I would have nominated John Turturro over who was actually nominated from Quiz Show, but no, Morgan Freeman as Red. It's such an iconic role. But I would argue also Jackson's Jules is really iconic too. One of those men should have won, and it went to Martin Landau for not that iconic of a role. Like it's good. I'm fine. I'm okay. He can be nominated. He played Bela Lugosi. Cool. But damn, that does not hold up. Tim Robbins has a much harder lead case because even though I wouldn't give Hank's Forrest Gump the pitcher or director, it's really hard to say that that's not good acting, that he's not turning a good performance. He's also got Travolta, who's doing really fine work in Pulp Fiction. So, I mean, he's really good in Shawshank, but I mean, it is a little bit more of a toss up between those categories. Yeah, there's really nobody else here. Those are the two characters that deserve the nominations. Um, if we ever could go deeper, like this deserves like an ensemble award, uh, because everyone else is great in it as well. So throughout the whole cast, down on through bad guys or prisoners or whoever, everybody contributed to make Shawshank as fantastic as it is. I love that people like there is an actual place that they shot this. There's a prison that they used for this, and people go there. Like it's one of the more visited filming locations that still exists that people can just go to, and you can be like, "This is where they shot Shawshank." Just like I think that fucking train is still in the forest from The Fugitive. I think that train is still there. Um, that's one of the best, like, you know, little known secrets. If you've ever seen The Fugitive, that train sequence, they actually did that. That's not CG. That is a practical train collision, an actual train collision. However, they left it. They left it in the woods. Um, so yeah, there's this train that forever has just been in the woods in like, oh god, like Tennessee or North Carolina or something like that. There's somewhere in the woods in like the Appalachia area. There's this random train collision that happened. The extra cars or whatever that they left there from filming, they didn't take it with them. Hilarious. So yeah, you can go to Shawshank. But this is, yeah, I love going through this again and watching Andy, uh, who is innocent, of his crime, and so you're rooting for him the whole time. You're rooting for him to get out the whole time because he didn't do it, and you're pretty sure he didn't do it at the beginning. It kind of starts off with his trial, but throughout the film, he doesn't do it. He didn't do it. I mean, he says from the beginning that he's innocent, and Red jokes with him and says, only guilty man in Shawshank, you know. Um, so uh, yeah, it deals with a lot of dark subjects, like prison rape. Like things are not good for Andy when he first gets there. Uh, and coming out of that, and Andy using his skill set and biding his time, and having a plan, executing the plan, getting through the plan, crawling through shit to get out, and just sort of brilliantly setting it up so that way he gets what's owed to him, at the end of it, because he didn't do anything wrong to begin with, but he lost like 20 years of his life to Shawshank. So valid, everything that he does. By the end of the movie, you're like, fuck yeah, great. Shitty people died, great. Like, well, that one poor kid, that was unfortunate, but that's also why the other person who blows their head off deserved to blow their head off. Fuck yeah, fuck that guy. Um, so corruption, who cares? Anyway, so there's a sad death in here too. Like actually more sad than that one. Um, but and it talks about institutionalizing and how sometimes people have been in prison for so long that they actually can't function in the real world anymore. Like they don't conceptually understand, and we see that with, of course, the first who's released from prison. I forget the name. He was taking care of um, the crow, and he's released and he can't cope, so he kills himself. And because he can't figure out, and he's thinking about trying to do something to get himself sent back. Um, and ultimately, he just decides to leave the world, and he carves his little name up there. And later on, Red's in the same room, has the same opportunity, but Red doesn't have quite the years on him. I think he got let out after, is it 30 years? We keep seeing his parole hearings. I think it's the 30-year mark or 40. It's either 30 or 40. He's just shy of the other guy. Like he hasn't spent the same amount of time, and he does this. You either get busy living or you get busy dying, and he goes off and joins Andy. But the thing is, he also has a little bit less time that he spent inside Shawshank, so he's not quite as institutionalized, I guess you could say. A few less years on him. Um, and yeah, so it dives into that. I think this is an excellent movie to watch the same year that we're watching something like Sing Sing that dives into that, and you see Coleman Domingo's character in that, and the struggles that he goes through. It's a great year to revisit Shawshank and Sing Sing if you want to do double feature. I would recommend that. Um, if you can get a copy of Sing Sing, A24 is keeping it. It's like it feels like it's a street drug or something. And you're like, hey man, you got some Sing Sing? A24, A24 is keeping it. But you got a Sing Sing up there, you know. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. Maybe by the time I put this video out, Sing Sing will actually be available for people to see widely. I don't know, but I just love Shawshank, and I could talk about it all day. This I think the audio description track here is excellent. Does a great job of exploring all the characters and tracking them and their movements and the little things that he does. The stuff with the posters, the stuff with the rocks, the motion, going through the motions through a lot of these things. With the putting things in and out of the safe, the shining of the shoes. A lot of the things that are just sort of like little important beats to hit along the way are really good, um, and appreciated, and that's what I liked. So yeah, Shawshank Redemption is one of the best there ever will be. I mean, I'm sure you can hear everyone who's ever watched film talk about it. If you find some weirdo out there that's like Shawshank Redemption is terrible, weird. Don't. Although I appreciate them for bucking the system, but I wouldn't. If they, I don't know. I don't know if I could continue to listen to somebody trash Shawshank. Uh, but I'm not one of those obsessive people either that just quote Shawshank all day, every day. I just think it's a great movie and I love watching it. And it's weird because you're watching people in prison. It's not a great thing to watch. And if it didn't end the way that it did, it would be a really depressing movie. But luckily, Frank Darabont balances watching people who you're like, oh man. That's the thing about Sing Sing is that you want it to be inspirational, but at the same time, it ends the way that it does. And Shawshank ends the way that it does, and you're like, God, man, him standing in the rain just feels great. Even, it makes you want to go stand in the rain. Like just be like, I'm Andy Dufresne. Wait it. So, of course, I'm giving Shawshank Redemption an A+. And 30 years of Shawshank. Wow. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you guys on the other side.